The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. History repeats itself, I think, is the theme for today's first story. Former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who is an even more former Alabama senator, is set to announce today, and may have already announced by the time you watch this show or listen to this show, that he is going to run for his old U.S. Senate seat, according to a Republican official familiar with the plan, which could very much cause some interesting dynamics with Donald Trump and Trump's influence that he has over his supporters. Sessions, of course, was the Republican senator from Alabama before becoming Donald Trump's attorney general. When Sessions became Trump's attorney general, he became immediately embroiled in controversy when he actually correctly recused himself as attorney general from anything related to Russia. This led to a special election in Alabama between Roy Moore and Doug Jones. Doug Jones, the Democrat, narrowly defeating Roy Moore, despite Roy Moore being accused of serial sex assault on numerous women, including some who are quite young. And now Sessions wants to go back. And I mean, listen, this is going to create a lot of interesting dynamics between Trump and the Alabama Republicans, between Sessions and Roy Moore, between Republicans and Sessions, who may not be pleased with him. The Trumpist Republicans may not be pleased that Sessions even recused himself at all. I don't even know what the most interesting element of this entire thing is going to be.
Yeah, and we always talk about what Trump administration officials can do once they leave office, and it sort of depends. Like if they completely embarrass themselves in their role in the Trump administration, like Sean Spicer did, for example, your options are kind of limited. Like maybe you can write a book and go on Dancing with the Stars, but it's kind of hard to re-enter politics and be taken seriously. I think Jeff Sessions, though, because he didn't really lose his integrity, because he did the right thing by recusing himself, he can still make a political comeback. But then again, you think this is Alabama. This is one of the most conservative states in the country. This is one of the most pro-Trump states in the country. Can he do it there? And I think that's an open question.
What a lot of people are saying is it's going to come down to who Trump puts his weight behind. And reportedly, you would imagine that Jeff Sessions would have talked to Trump before announcing this. The reports are that they have not spoken about Jeff Sessions' plan. So the question will be, does Donald Trump say, hey, it's time to go for my former attorney general, despite the fact that Donald Trump pushed him out and didn't like a lot of the things that he did? But on the other hand, Roy Moore is running again. So is Trump going to say, vote for, again, go and vote for the serial accused accused serial sex assaulter, Roy Moore, who Trump begrudgingly ended up supporting in the special election after supporting someone else in the Republican primary for that special election? I don't know, but political analysts who know Alabama, Pat, are saying that it really could come down to who Trump supports.
I don't think it's entirely outside the realm of possibility that Trump will back Jeff Sessions, even though they had this big fallout and that was totally public.
Sure.
Because Trump also backed Mitt Romney in Romney's Utah Senate race. And they, have been going back and forth for a long time. Yeah. But I think this could be a three-way race in the primary, because there could be like Jeff Sessions, there could be Roy Moore, and then like a third, maybe unknown, who is backed by Trump, who is just like a classic Trumpist guy. And the three of them could maybe split the vote and, I don't know, maybe potentially cause Roy Moore to win, or like who knows in that case who would win.
And I believe that there is, in other words, I think that Jeff Sessions entering the race, he is entering a race that already has more than one candidate. I believe that there already is Roy Moore and someone else. I don't know who it is, and it doesn't seem like it's someone particularly known to either one of us. But we'll see what develops there. We will see what Donald Trump does about it. Kind of good news from Italy. Italy has been having some anti-vax problems, which we can sort of say is a form of an education problem, although often it's much more than that. But Italian school students, starting next year in every grade, are going to be required to study climate change and sustainability. And the idea is that Italy wants to be a world leader on environmental education. The education minister, Lorenzo Fioramonti, is saying that there will be 33 hours a year in school curricula to study issues linked to climate change. They will be built into civics classes. They will have an environmentalist footprint. And the idea is to create well-educated citizens of the world that will be part of solutions rather than problems. I think that this is absolutely great, Pat. And I think that in the U.S., we obviously should be doing this, but we should be going further. I've been talking about for years that in the U.S., we need to start teaching critical thinking early. We need to start teaching epistemology early. I would like to see philosophy taught early. And certainly considering climate science as an integral part of any serious education, if you are supposed to come out of school understanding the paramount and foremost issues affecting our planet today, why wouldn't you be studying this? So good for Italy for doing it.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world, especially because climate change is an existential threat. Other topics that we teach in classes, like, maybe history or foreign languages or English, those are important subjects, and of course we should learn about them, but they're not nearly as serious as something like climate change is. And students are primarily the people who are going to have to take the burden of climate change. They're going to have to fix problems that we're leaving behind. And I think by teaching climate change in schools and like prevention, mitigation, you can inspire the next generation to come up with some innovative ideas. Like there's that, what is he, like 20 years old, that kid who came up with this way to get rid of the plastic garbage patch in the ocean. Yeah. You have Greta Thunberg, who's making headlines, big in the news right now. So I think this is something that other countries should be doing as well. Can you imagine in the United States as well too?
If here in the United States there was a proposal made to mandate that climate science must be taught at every grade level, like can you even imagine what would happen within our education system? What Republicans would be doing? Like it's inconceivable the degree to which they would say this is the atrocity perpetrated of the decade by Democrats. And by the way, how sad is it that it's Democrats that would be saying that this is a good idea?
It would have to be done by the states, and of course the blue states that would do that. It wouldn't be something that we could do nationwide, I don't think. And Italy, being front and center in this fight against climate change, kind of debunks this idea that scientists are just pushing climate change so they can get grant money here in the United States. Like that's the conspiracy theory that Republicans often push. Well, if that's the case, then how come there's so much universal consensus on this issue? How come it's not just scientists in the U.S. who buy into climate change? It's also people in Italy and Germany and Africa and Asia. Like, is everyone just bought and paid for here on this issue?
Of course, yeah. The reason that Botswanan scientists are accepting the science on climate change is because they want to get all of that Botswanan money to fund incredibly lavish lifestyles. That makes absolutely perfect sense. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And, motive alone does not a conspiracy make. And often that is all conspiracists have, is some hypothetical motive. In this case, the motive doesn't even make sense. We don't even have the motive for justifying why there would be this conspiracy to collude around, allegedly false climate science, which of course we know to be just the real science, and that's what it is. So good for Italy. We'll see if other countries implement this. And I would say we'll see if the U.S. does it, but obviously we won't. But as Pat says, maybe there will be blue states where they will say, as a matter of course, we are going to teach climate science to kids. And we should also do critical thinking and we should do epistemology. But it's, you got to start chipping away. Maybe there's some low-hanging fruit and we could make some progress. We've talked about the criminalization of poverty and homelessness. And one place where the city council is taking action is Las Vegas, which has approved a ban that will make it illegal to camp or sleep on the streets in certain parts of the city. Of course, this will criminalize homelessness in many cases. This passed 5-2 after a bunch of hours of public comment at the Las Vegas City Council. It will make it a misdemeanor to rest, sleep, or lodge in the Las Vegas downtown district and some residential areas if there are shelter beds available. So that's a good thing because it does, if it's not illegal, if shelters are full, that creates some impetus to make sure that there are shelter beds available. But still, you are criminalizing being poor and being homeless. Violators will be fined up to $1,000 or jailed for up to 6 months. We know that oftentimes, even if there is a bed available in a shelter, conditions are not always safe. Conditions are not always appropriate. They are not always what we would like them to be. So we've seen this in San Francisco in different ways, Pat. I don't deny for a second that there is a problem in Vegas with homelessness on the streets. I go to Vegas twice a year for a conference. When you walk around the Strip area, there's no question that there are areas where one might not feel particularly safe, although I've never witnessed any violence or anything like that. It's people who are down on their luck and looking to acquire some money or just for a place to sleep. But this is a theme that we've been following.
Yeah, and they say that they don't want to make this penalty oriented. Like there will be a law on the books that you could face jail time or a fine if you're sleeping on the streets.
Yeah.
But hopefully that's just a last resort. Problem with that is if you have individual police officers enforcing the law and maybe they come across a repeat offender, someone who, sleeps on the street day after day, maybe they would put that into their own hands and try to charge the person with sleeping on the streets, maybe arrest them. And, that doesn't help the situation. How is that supposed to help them reintegrate back into society? So I don't think this is the right move at all to criminalize this. And it seems like such a natural thing, right? I mean, like this is just our normal body functions. We eat, we sleep. I think that it's criminalizing something that's just so human to be able to like get rest. And if you have nowhere to go, I mean, and maybe you just don't want to go to a shelter for whatever reason that may be.
There are many legitimate reasons.
The right to do that. Yeah.
The other thing about this is going to actually make solving, if we believe that the idea is to end homelessness, right? Which it should be, but maybe it's not actually. This is not going to help do it because in particular, people who are already homeless, it's harder for them to find jobs. It's harder for them to get back on their feet financially and get a place to live where they can rent. And if you have $1,000 fine potentially hitting you because you're sleeping on the street, that won't make it easier to find a job, and it certainly won't make it easier to make rent payments. So it's one of these things where we are criminalizing, even though we claim we want to solve a problem that we make worse via the policy, which is completely backwards. And San Francisco experienced that as well.
Yeah, and I would imagine that if you have some like big shot in Las Vegas who's visiting and he's wearing a $5,000 suit and he maybe just had too much to drink and he passed out outside of the bar and the strip, he's not going to get charged with anything. I think it's purely just the homeless population who are susceptible to getting criminal charges, and that's the double standard that we have in many parts of the country.
I read a comment. I don't know if it was like the president of the city council or the mayor of Las Vegas, who said something like, we know that there are some flaws in this and we're going to work to fix them. Like, yeah, the main flaw is it's not going to solve the problem in any way, and it risks actually making it worse. That's sort of the primary flaw that I would find, that this may actually do the opposite of what you want it to do.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being cynical here, but I feel like the primary reason they're doing this is just so that rich folks don't have to see poor people on the street as they walk by them. I mean, maybe that is too cynical, but that's the same impression that I got when I went to Las Vegas a couple months ago, and I noticed that you can't just walk across the street. You have to go up an escalator, over a bridge, and then down the escalator to cross the street. And that, of course, just is, not very pedestrian friendly. And the reason that you do that is to favor car traffic. And who's more likely to be driving around the city versus walking around the city? It's the rich folks.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's a very popular spot for what we generally speaking call panhandling, which are those overpasses. And they are areas where, because of how the city is designed, at least in the strip area we're talking about, to be deferential to car traffic and less so to pedestrian traffic. Although you could argue that not having to wait for a cross at the street is sort of pedestrian friendly. It's just that it can end up taking forever because you've got to go up and down escalators and across bridges. That is a very popular spot for the panhandling that it seems like they're trying to deal with. And I'll be totally honest, it's not the most delightful scenery, but I've never felt threatened by the many people that I've seen panhandling in those overpasses. I don't know if you did. And it's not the problem that it is often made out to be. We could just deal with the homelessness rather than putting in criminal penalties, because it just, quite frankly, doesn't seem that urgent to me.
Yeah, I wasn't threatened by the panhandlers. I didn't find them particularly aggressive. But what annoyed me is how it took like half an hour to walk
across
a mile.
The street. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just horrible. How could a city pass something like that?
Yeah, that is an annoyance of Las Vegas, but one that we could call a first world problem, I think, admittedly. That does it for today. New show tomorrow and a new bonus show. I hope you will join us.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.